Hello, hello. Welcome to Sports Tea. My name is Dominique, and this is my first episode. And I'm so excited to talk about what's happening in the Olympic basketball games. So, before I jump into that, if everyone can please do me a favor and a huge favor, actually, and like the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe to Sports Tea and feel free to send a Cash App if you're enjoying the content. So now that we've got that out of the way, as you can see in the lineup, I'm going to discuss my thoughts on Steve Kerr benching Jayson Tatum in the Team USA opener. So while I watched the opening game against Serbia on Sunday, bright and early with everyone else and the rest of the world, the funniest thing, honestly, was outside of watching Team USA blow out the supposed best player in the world, Jokic, it was watching Jayson Tatum ride the pine at the absolute end of the bench, dressed in full warm up gear and get 0 minutes as a coach's DNP. So you could practically read the expression on his face, but like I gotta say, like the expression kind of read like, "But I got a ring." It's kind of like I mean, the best way for me to describe what happened to Jason Tatum in that game was it's kind of like being unemployed with a PhD. Like, can you imagine going to school for a million years and eh, like you just can't get a job? Can you imagine getting every single degree, becoming an expert in your field, and you just can't get hired? That's kind of like what happened to Jason Tatum. I mean, he is the reigning NBA champion and he was on the bench. He's playing amongst the most elite NBA players in the world and he's just riding the bench as if he didn't just lead the Celtics to a title this past season. It's not like we're a year removed from that. This is, just a month or two ago. Like, come on. Um, you know, you could, like I said, it was definitely interesting to see him on the bench, and nonetheless, the sports media world was completely outraged by this. So, I'm going to share some sound bites from Stephen A, Chris Broussard, as well as Doug Gottlieb. So let's hear what Stephen A has to say. As usual, he speaks in such dramatic fashion. So, let's take a listen.
Because of that reality. That's why I find myself pissed off right now at Golden State Warriors and now Team USA's head coach, Steve Kerr. Because we got to get to him. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the man elected not to play Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum. 0 minutes. Jayson Tatum, the last 3 years, All NBA first team. Jayson Tatum, top 6 for league in the category for league MVP. Jayson Tatum, the reigning defending NBA champion. Jayson Tatum. And you can't find minutes in a 26-point lopsided victory. You can't find 1 minute for Jayson Tatum. I'm trying to get away from cussing because, I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I'm a decent human being that loves the Lord. And my pastor's watching me sometimes, and I know he gets mad at me when I cuss. But Steve Kerr, that's some straight bullshit. I mean, really? You got to be kidding me. What possible excuse could you have for that? I don't want to hear this. And I'm reading these reports, and these people getting on my damn nerves. But before I get into any of that with Steve Kerr and his BS, let's hear his BS excuse or rationale when he was talking to ESPN's own Brian Windhorst, who was on this show last week previewing the Olympic competition. This is Steve Kerr with Brian Windhorst after not finding a minute.
Okay. So clearly, Stephen A was very passionate about this. But, my takeaway from what Stephen A is saying is that Kerr is coaching the very best players in the world. And it's his job to figure out a creative way to get them on the floor playing together. To me, Stephen A's reaction it just seems like it's more about the optics of Jayson Tatum not playing and not the actual decision. It's not about the result of him getting 0 minutes, but it's more about the decision. So I like when we look at what happened in that game, I mean, LeBron played the most minutes at 40 years old. 27 minutes at 40 years old. Really? I know everyone thought that LeBron had a solid game. He performed well, but every possession matters a lot in the Olympic Games on the road to the gold. And he turned the ball over 5 times before the half. Luckily, Kevin Durant came in and made it a blowout because with LeBron leading the way and turning the ball over, they were down 6 before KD was subbed in. He's clearly the difference maker. So, Steve Kerr does explain his decision to play just 10 guys and, like we're going to listen to Kerr defend himself, but he also sort of backpedals on his decision. So, let's listen to what he says.
You guys play your best game of the whole summer to this point, but you didn't get to use Jayson Tatum, who's obviously one of the best players in the league. Obviously, that's one of the hard things to do in your role.
Yeah, it's tough, but Jayson handled it really well. I talked to him today before the game that it may play out this way, just with Kevin coming back and the lineups that I wanted to get to. But that'll change. Jayson's going to play. Every game's going to be different based on matchups. He's a total pro. He's first team All NBA 3 years in a row. I felt like an idiot not playing him, but in a 40-minute game, you can't play more than 10. You really can't. And, so I think he's an amazing guy, great player and handled it beautifully. And, he'll be back out there next game.
Oh, that's such bullshit. Come on, man. Steve Kerr, you're a 4-time champion. You're one of the great, great coaches that have ever coached the game of basketball. What do you mean you can't play more than 10? If anybody can play more than 10, it's you. It's you.
I mean, did anyone notice that Steve Kerr was totally self-deprecating? I mean, to me, this was a loaded explanation, as short as it was. But, while talking to Brian Windhorst, he was just totally self-deprecating. I mean, Wendy asked very clear question and, Steve Kerr answered it with bullshit, to Stephen A's point. I mean, the self-deprecation doesn't work on me. When attractive men and women are just, they're fishing for compliments, saying how ugly they are or how fat they look in this outfit, when really they're just looking for their best girlfriends or, their significant other to give them a compliment, to tell them they really look good when they already know this, but they need that validation, right? They want to hear the compliment. So to me, that's what Steve Kerr is looking for. He's looking for validation. He's also looking for perhaps the media not to beat him up about not playing Jayson Tatum. So he says that he felt like an idiot not playing him. I mean, like, stop looking for the validation that you made the right decision or to not get beat up by the press. Kerr making the excuse that he can't play 12 guys, he can only play 10 is a total cop-out. Just stand on your decision. There were 3 coaches there. Eric Spoelstra, Ty Lue, and Kerr that made the decision not to play the reigning NBA champion. I mean, let's be for real. Stand on the decision. Me personally, I don't think that Serbia needed LeBron in the garbage minutes at the end of the game to pad his stats. And I think Kerr could have found a way to play Tatum at least 10 minutes. However, Tatum clearly wasn't necessary for Team USA to beat Serbia. Again, the optics of him being benched is more the issue than the actual result of him getting 0 minutes. I want to hear the reason from Steve Kerr. Like, what is the reason that you truly benched him? I believe that Kerr is of the opinion that Tatum is overrated since he faced him, in 2022 in the finals. And Steve Kerr, the Warriors, they beat the Celtics. And guess what Tatum was doing? He turned the ball over in that series with abandon. Okay? So if you're not going to state the obvious that Tatum is perhaps overrated, just stand on your decision, Steve Kerr. Don't punk out. Don't don't have all these cop outs and excuses why you didn't play him. Don't self-deprecate and call yourself an idiot. The three of you, yourself, Eric Spoelstra, and Ty Lue, decided and agreed not to play Tatum. Period. So, Chris Broussard discusses what may have happened behind the scenes and if Tatum was actually pissed about, warming the bench for Team USA. And he also talks about what his playing time will most likely look like for the next game. The next game is going to be against South Sudan. Chris Broussard touches upon that. So let's hear what he has to say.
I wonder if Kerr felt like, do I put him in with 4 minutes left? We're up 25, whatever it was. Is that disrespectful? Does he feel bad, if I put him in garbage time and all that? I mean, maybe not, because Rob, the point differential does matter in these early rounds, like how big the margin of victory is. But I think it's going to, going forward is really how it's going to impact Jayson Tatum. Like Kerr is saying he's going to play in their next game, which is Wednesday against South Sudan, because South Sudan is more athletic and Tatum's a better matchup for them and all that. Last time he played, they only won by a point, but he played 16 minutes. If he only plays, Rob, 3 or 4 minutes, now Tatum's going to be like, yo, what's going on? He won't say it.
I mean, look, Chris Broussard made some excellent points, I think. One of the first, he mentioned the point differential. This team is being compared to the 1992 Dream Team. And the point differential does matter, because if you're winning by 1 point, if you're not blowing teams out, then it shows that the rest of the world is catching up to the Americans. That's what it shows. It shows that, this team is just probably not better than the Dream Team. So, me personally, I think the talent on this team is still great enough to blow out every single team that they're going to face. I think that another point that Chris Broussard makes is the fact that Steve Kerr plans to play Jayson Tatum in the next game against South Sudan. But when they played them in the exhibition game, Tatum played about 16 minutes and the team only won by 1 point. They almost lost that game. So, yet Kerr is going to play him again against South Sudan. So, obviously the opinion is that, Tatum has the athleticism, Team USA is going to be able to benefit from that in the game against South Sudan. I mean, I think that KD needs to be the leader in that game as well. Just give him the ball and get out of the way. Outside of Carmelo Anthony, KD has had the best performance in the Olympics that we've ever seen. So, I don't know that Jayson Tatum is the necessary piece against South Sudan when they barely won that game. I do have one more soundbite that I'm going to react to, and that's Doug Gottlieb sharing his thoughts and basically eviscerating the rest of the sports world for complaining about Tatum being on the bench. And, what I appreciate about Doug is that he's built equity in his sports takes from being an actual coach. He knows a few things, and he makes a lot of great points, and he oftentimes, goes in a different direction with his opinions and sports takes. So, I enjoy him because he is a coach. He's coaching currently college basketball. One thing for sure is that he believes his colleagues at Fox and his rivals at other networks are making a mountain out of a molehill regarding Tatum's not playing in the opening game with Team USA. So let's hear his thoughts.
But somehow there's this absolute nonsense about Jayson Tatum should be playing. Why? Did we have an issue at the position that he plays? He's a wing, right? He's like a 2, 3, maybe a 4. Right. So let's get to just the realities of 10 people. And you'll hear from Steve Kerr talk about it. But there's 40 minutes in a game. That's 200 minutes per play, 200 minutes total. 12 players, you got 200 minutes. So if you again, if you divide up evenly 200 minutes by 10 players, you get 20 minutes apiece. That's half of the game. Now try and do it with 12. And yeah, you look at it and you're like, hey, first team All NBA last 3 years, like he should be on it. But should he have played instead of Kevin Durant? No. Should he have played instead of LeBron James? No. Anthony Edwards looks like he's bought into his role. He's got a little bit more juice. Got a little better play without the basketball. Should he play more than Anthony Edwards or taken any of Anthony Edwards' minutes? Maybe. So where, pray tell, would you have him play? Where? He's not a guard. Okay? He's not a guard. And he's not a 5. And oh yeah, by the way, if you're going to play that wing, that means you have to guard Jokic and other players when they post up, which is not what he does. He is a scorer. And he has to have the ball in his hands. And he's not used to not being a secondary or even tertiary option. Doesn't play well that way. This is an efficiency game. There's fewer possessions, fewer opportunities. Possessions matter more. It's not a great fit for him in comparison to Kevin Durant, LeBron James, who, though older, long in the tooth, but they know how to play better in FIBA's rules basketball because they played it more. And in regards to putting him in, like in the fourth quarter, like, all right, what's more embarrassing, to not play a guy or to play in the last 5 minutes in a blowout? It's not really that hard. Don't play the guy the last 5 minutes in a blowout. Most of those guys will go like, I'm good. Because you're going to sit there for an hour and a half and then get in for your last 15 minutes, and your body doesn't cooperate when you're used to playing starters minutes. You're allowed to bitch. You're allowed to kvetch. You're allowed to complain if we lose, let alone the game is close. It wasn't. I thought Steve Kerr had great feel for the game, who to play, how to play him, and how to use him. Like Steph Curry is the greatest shooter in the history of the sport. He hit 2 gigantic threes yesterday, but he's kind of a hard guy to fit in in that game because he can't guard at all on when they get him on a switch. And because you can kind of control him some with hand checking, he doesn't get nearly as many good looks as he does when he's playing stateside.
Okay, so let's break down what Doug was just talking about. First thing I want to say is I disagree about the minutes that Kerr couldn't find a way to play Tatum. Guys don't need equal playing time. Okay, this isn't an equal opportunity situation. Tatum could have been on the floor. Maybe not heavy minutes, but 7 to 10 minutes could have and would have been fine. The best point that Doug made was regarding Tatum's position and style of play. He needs the ball in his hands. He's not great at being a second option or a role player. But most importantly, Team USA didn't actually need his scoring. He can't defend the post, let alone Jokic. So, KD and LeBron have the experience in winning for Team USA. It makes sense. It makes sense for them to play and for them to lead the team. Stephen A was dramatic, and I think that if Tatum is on the bench and they lost, that's a different conversation that we'd be having today, right? I mean, that's a cause for to take a pause. That's a pause for concern. And, the point of Tatum not playing becomes a much larger focus in that case. So Team USA won the game. And as long as KD is available, as long as Kevin Durant is on the floor and available, they should run away with the gold medal. The rest of the world is not catching up. I repeat, the rest of the world is not caught up to the US. It's not true. It's fake news. I know that there's politics with LeBron and Clutch, Nike, and a variety of other narratives that make the optics of Tatum riding the pines seem very alarming. But there are more games to come, and I think it's going to be a very exciting Olympic summer. So, I'm going to create some more content, most likely previewing the men's and women's games. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to the premiere of Sports Tea. If you haven't done so already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and feel free to send a Cash App if you've enjoyed the content. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again. Have a great day.